This is Land of Havilah, Isaiah 26. This chapter is a prophecy that reads like a psalm. In fact, the opening line says it's a song. It's as if it's being sung by the righteous who have seen where this experience on earth is headed. Maybe they saw it prophetically, or maybe they've actually passed on to the other side and saw it with their own eyes. Verse 1. In that day this song will be sung in the land of Judah. Comment, this is a song. Here it is, still in verse 1. We have a strong city. God appoints salvation for walls and bulwarks. Open the gates that the righteous nation may enter, the one which keeps faith. You will keep whoever's mind is steadfast in perfect peace because he trusts in you. Trust in Yahweh forever, for in Yahweh is an everlasting rock. For he has brought down those who dwell on high, the lofty city. He lays it low even to the ground. He brings it even to the dust. The foot shall tread it down, even the feet of the poor and the steps of the needy. Comment in verse 1, this is a song that will be sung in that day meaning someday in the future. So what future are we talking about? In the rest of the chapter, God has thoroughly redeemed the righteous and judged the wicked, so this is some future age beyond the tribulations of the present. In verse 1, we have a strong city. It belongs to us. And like strong cities of ancient times, this city of the future is protected by a wall. The salvation of God is the wall in verse 1. God's salvation is their protection. So is this a literal city with a literal wall, or are these metaphors for a place that's beyond description? In other passages, there's the Zion of the millennium, and in eternity there's the New Jerusalem with a great high wall. So the city in verse 1 is a familiar concept. In verse 2, open the gates that the righteous may enter, end quote. So the wall has gates through which the righteous will enter. In Revelation 22:14, speaking of the New Jerusalem, blessed are those who do his commandments, that they may enter by the gates into the city, end quote. In verse 3, a familiar memory verse, you'll keep whoever's mind is steadfast in perfect peace because he trusts in you. Or translated more naturally in the ESV, you keep him in perfect peace whose mind is stayed on you because he trusts in you. It's saying that there's never anything to worry about. We can trust God in every situation. There's too often the misconception that there's some virtue in worry. But worry is completely unproductive. Worry is the opposite of faith. If we worry, we should repent. Worry means we don't trust in God. If we trust him, we'll be in perfect peace. Trust him forever in verse 4. For Yahweh is an everlasting rock. It's the people in that city who are saying this, that if they had to do it over again, they wouldn't worry about anything. Their advice to us is trust him forever. Particularly in verses 5 and 6, if they had it to do over, they wouldn't worry about the power and dominance of the lofty because they've seen how God dealt with them. He brought them low to the dust. It turned out that the poor and needy trod on them. Continuing with the song, verse 7, the way of the just is uprightness. You who are upright make the path of the righteous level. Yes, in the way of your judgments, Yahweh, have we waited for you. Your name and your renown are the desire of our soul. With my soul I have desired you in the night. Yes, with my spirit within me I will seek you earnestly. For when your judgments are in the earth, the inhabitants of the world learn righteousness. Let favor be shown to the wicked, yet he'll not learn righteousness. In the land of uprightness he'll deal wrongfully and will not see Yahweh's majesty. Yahweh, your hand is lifted up, yet they don't see, but they will see your zeal for the people and be disappointed. Yes, fire will consume your adversaries. Comment in verse 7, you who are upright make the path of the righteous level, end quote. It's either that God makes our path smooth or that we should make the path smooth for each other. In verse 8, yes, in the way of your judgments, Yahweh, we have waited for you. Your name and your renown are the desire of our soul, end quote. God's judgments are his decisions. They're the things he chooses to do. So the gist of it is that we wait to see how God will handle various situations. We desire him to make himself famous, that he increases his name and renown, that everyone sees his work and gives him credit. Your name and renown are the desire of our soul. And the same in verse 9, we lie on our beds at night, seeking him and desiring him that he'll show himself and influence the world to righteousness. But unfortunately, in verses 10 and 11, when God treats the wicked well, they learn nothing. When he shows his majesty, they don't see it. It goes right over their heads. They'll only take notice at the judgment when God shows his zeal for his people and redeems them. When the wicked see that, they'll be disappointed, to put it mildly, and fire will consume them. So God shows his majesty, but the wicked don't take notice. They won't notice anything until the final judgment. Verse 12. Yahweh, you will ordain peace for us, for you've also done all our work for us. Yahweh, our God, other lords besides you have had dominion over us, but by you only will we make mention of your name. The dead shall not live, the departed spirits shall not rise. Therefore you have visited and destroyed them, and caused all memory of them to perish. You have increased the nation, O Yahweh, you have increased the nation, you are glorified. You have enlarged all the borders of the land. Comment in verse 12, quote, you have also done all our work for us, end quote. That will be the work of deliverance and salvation. We aren't saved by human effort, but by God, Ephesians 2:8. God does the work. Then in verse 13, just in case we thought Isaiah misspoke, he says the same thing in a different way, quote, by you only will we make mention of your name, end quote. If it weren't for God's work in us, we wouldn't even mention his name. Other lords have had dominion over us in verse 13, but thanks to God now we only mention and recognize one Lord. In verse 14, the dead shall not live, the departed spirits will not rise. And we're thinking, wait a minute, isn't there a resurrection? Yes, there is a resurrection of those who belong to God, according to a very clear statement coming up very shortly in verse 19. Therefore, in verse 14, the dead who shall not live and departed spirits who will not rise doesn't mean everyone, it's whoever God doesn't claim. In verse 14, God visited them, destroyed them, and caused all memory of them to perish. We wonder if we'll be distraught in the hereafter about the fate of the unsaved, but in verse 14, we won't remember them. God visited them, destroyed them, and caused all memory of them to perish. In verse 15, in addition to the city, there's another picture of the gathering of God's people. Quote, you've increased the nation, you are glorified, you have enlarged the borders of the land. In the mind of an Israelite in Isaiah's time, that would probably bring to mind an enlargement of the borders of Judah or an enlargement of the borders of the Promised Land. In our time, since we have the advantage of more scriptural revelation, we think of people from all nations being grafted into one believing nation, the Israel of God, Romans 11:17, which would account for the enlarging of the nation. In verse 15, Israelites are surprised how swollen the population is. They never expected Israel to be such a large and sprawling place. You have increased the nation, you have enlarged the borders of the land. Speaking of the righteous calling on God in distress, verse 16, Yahweh, in trouble they have visited you. They poured out a prayer when your chastening was on them. Just as a woman with child who draws near the time of her delivery is in pain and cries out in her pangs, so we have been before you, Yahweh. We have been with child. We have been in pain. We gave birth, it seems, only to wind. We've not worked any deliverance in the earth, neither have the inhabitants of the world fallen. Your dead shall live. My dead bodies shall arise. Awake and sing, you who dwell in the dust, for your dew is like the dew of herbs, and the earth will cast out the departed spirits. Come, my people, enter into your rooms and shut your doors behind you. Hide yourself for a little moment until the indignation is past. For behold, Yahweh comes out of his place to punish the inhabitants of the earth for their iniquity. The earth also will disclose her blood and will no longer cover her slain. Comment in verse 16, when God's people were in trouble, they visited him, meaning they prayed, they drew near to him. In verse 17, they cried out to him like women in labor. Continuing that metaphor, in verse 18, we gave birth, it seems, only to wind, which means their prayers went unanswered as far as they could tell. The distress didn't work any deliverance in the earth, meaning it didn't seem like there was any change. Neither have the inhabitants of the world fallen. That's fallen in the sense of a baby falling from its mother in birth. The point of a woman in labor is to produce a baby, and the point of prayer is to get an answer, but it seems the prayers gave birth to nothing but wind. Nevertheless, in verse 19, this is the resurrection verse we mentioned, your dead shall live, my dead bodies shall arise. Awake and sing, you who dwell in the dust, for your dew is like the dew of herbs, and the earth will cast out the departed spirits. Meaning, though it didn't seem like some of the prayers on earth were answered, There'll be a resurrection. Those who are in distress will rise from the dust as fresh as a green herb with dew on it. So what should we do? In verse 20, we should enter into our rooms, shut the doors behind us, and hide ourselves for a moment until God's indignation is past. Because in verse 21, God comes out of his place to punish the inhabitants of the earth for their iniquity. In other words, God's indignant, which makes this earth a horrible place. We're living in a war zone because God's continually sending judgment. God's people get caught up in the collateral effects of that judgment. So it's a rough place, and our prayers don't change this fallen world into a lovely and perfect world. But hide yourself, wait a little while, God's indignation will pass, and pretty soon we'll be resurrected into that city, into that large land, and will be as fresh as a green herb with dew on it. Then the last sentence, the earth will also disclose her blood and will no longer cover her slain, which means this earth is so bad it'll be the death of us. And even more than kill us, the earth will grind our dead bodies into the dust until there's no recognition of us. This is all according to the curse of Genesis chapter 3, quote, "For you are dust, and to dust you shall return," end quote. We have a tough go of it on this earth because of that curse, so that some of our prayers go unanswered, and we're even murdered by the curse and turned to dust. But God will raise us, redeem us, avenge us, and we'll live in that city and in that large land, and we'll be all refreshed. So hide yourself for a little while, keep praying, and hang on. Isaiah 27 is next.